Okay, so at this point, you should have all of those images added in. And so if I save my program and run it, you should see that you have all of your alignments added to your different images for those different desert plants. Now, something I want you to notice is if I make this full screen, there's some awkward overlap. So here I can see that I have the desert spoon. That overlaps with the agave Americana picture and is above the desert spoon picture. The golden barrel picture, while it coincides with some of that golden barrel text, the golden barrel text is next to the desert spoon, and it just doesn't look as good as it could. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in some more formatting that'll help us kind of fix that issue. So that's our goal. Now, we're going to use what's called the break tag, which we've talked about before, but we're going to do something special with it, because what you'll see is even if I just add in a singular break, because most students think if they start adding in breaks, that's going to fix the problem. If I relaunch this, you'll notice it adds in a break, but if I make it full screen again, it doesn't really fix the problem. It just takes this down one enter. And what we want to do is we want to clear it from being around this picture at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a new attribute called clear. And what clear does inside of the break tag is it ends all of the text wrapping, and it ends like a line break, but it's a line break that clears any sort of that text wrapping. So we know that we have a picture that's aligned to the right now. We can see that with our agave picture. It's aligned to the right-hand side, and then we have all of this text occurring right around that picture. So what we can do is instead of just using a typical break tag, we're going to do a break clear to the right because our picture was to the right. So we're going to clear all of the text wrapping that's associated with that right aligned picture. So now if I save, so we have the picture up here, this text is all text wrapped around that agave Americana picture, and here we're doing break and we're adding a clear of the right. If we do that and we launch in Chrome, what you'll notice is if I expand this, it adds in the correct number of breaks that I need and ends that text wrapping around that picture. So this picture no longer intersects with the wrong type of desert plant. So now we're going to move on and we're going to do the same thing with Desert Spoon. Desert Spoon, you'll notice, has a picture that's aligned to the left and has text wrapping appropriately. So here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add in a break, but we're going to add in that attribute of clear for text wrapping for a left aligned picture. We save, we run, and now Golden Barrel is on its own chunk as well. So if we scroll down and do Golden Barrel, we know the Golden Barrel picture is aligned to the right. So we're going to clear for a right aligned picture. And then we'll do the same thing for the prickly pear. Again, clearing for a left aligned picture. So what you should have now, if you run your same program and you've saved it, is you should see that as you view it, everything kind of has its own space. The Golden Barrel, its own space. The prickly pear, its own space. The agave Americana has its own space. And that makes it a lot nicer to look at. You can see that here. It's just a lot nicer to look at. Everything's organized a bit more nicely. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in, and I'm going to show you what H space and V space actually does, because for these, students struggle to actually see what H space and V space do. So what you'll notice here is that this right here has an H space of 0 and a V space of 0, and you'll notice that text bumps up right next to it. However, if you start adding in an H space of 20 or a V space of 20, what you'll notice is that it adds 20 pixels of space around that image. So when we're adding in H space, we're adding in a horizontal buffer of space around our image. When we're adding in V space, we're adding in a vertical buffer of space. And the number is the number of pixels we want to separate it out, the amount of buffer we want to give it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 50 pixels of V space and 100 pixels of H space to our pictures so we can actually see what is taking place. So I want you to go to all of the plant pictures. So here we're going to write H space equals 100 as an attribute and V space equals 50 as an attribute. So I'm adding that in, I've saved it, I'm going to run it, and I want to show you what this does. So you'll notice here that this now adds a vertical space of 50 pixels and a horizontal space of 100 pixels. So it takes it away from the very, very edge here. It takes it away from the very edge of the text, and it kind of gives it a buffer of space around it. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to, that should be V space, sorry. I'd like you to do this same thing with the other pictures. So I'm just going to copy and paste these because I want them all to have similar formatting, and I'm going to go down into each. Save my program, and then launch it in Chrome, and now I can see that all of my pictures have this H space and V space going on. So I can see the 50 pixels of V space and the 100 pixels of H space. So it's just some added spacing into your particular program. So you want to add that in to make it look a little bit nicer. Now the last piece we're going to conquer in this video is we're going to add in what's called a thumbnail image. And what a thumbnail image is just a smaller version of an image that's used on a web page to basically change speed loading times and hopefully increase it because the picture won't be as large. So you want to add the word increase here. But what a thumbnail does is it just increases the speed of loading times because you aren't loading such large pictures in. Now, a thumbnail is a link that will link to another image. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a chunk of code to the very, very bottom of our desert plants page. So here we can see we have just a normal paragraph. So we're going to just add in a picture to the very, very bottom. I'm going to add in this image. It's desertplants.jpg. So there's our actual image being added in. And what we're going to do is we're going to link around it a different page. So we're going to link to a bigger version of this same page. So you'll notice here I have a href. This is a JPEG file that I'm linking to. So it's going to open up a new JPEG file when I actually click on this picture. So I'm going to save it and run this one more time to show you what's going on. If I scroll to the very, very bottom, I can see there's a very, very small picture right here in the corner. It's a very, very small version of a desert plant, but if I click on it, it displays a much larger version. So that thumbnail links to a larger version of that picture. And if I go back, again, I can do the same thing, link to a larger version. So we can add thumbnail pictures in wherever appropriate, just to link to those pictures that maybe we don't want the browser to spend so much time loading in. So at this point, you are done with your image attributes, and you can move on to the next set of videos, which talk about linking to external sites and linking to targets.